on board Patriot Offshore Racing. Curtis Watkins, the driver. John Thames, the throttle man. On board Patriot. Curtis from Fort Lauderdale. John from Stowe, Vermont. Patriot Offshore Racing. 29-foot fountain. Ford. Vector helicopter shot on the inside. Patriot on the outside is Chicks Beach Offshore. Patriot is owned by Viper Marine, a 29-foot fountain, Mercury powered, 500 horsepower inboard. Curtis Watkins is the driver, John Thames the throttle man. Battle going on here between Patriot and Chicks Beach Offshore in Factory 1. Two fountains battling here, both 29-footers. Both Mercury-powered, very evenly matched boats. Onboard Patriot Racing. Curtis Watkins and John Thames, driver and throttle man. Chicks Beach Offshore and Patriot on the inside. A real battle here going on. Patriot with a slight edge as they go around the turn. You're watching the inaugural Savannah Offshore Grand Prix of Tybee Island. And there you see the many, many spectators in the background getting a great vantage point for this race. Of course, the shortened race course has helped a great deal. They can watch 100% of the race. And looking downfield, there's Chicks Beach Offshore. Back to a helicopter shot. It's Curtis Watkins and John Thames on board Patriot. Chicks Beach Offshore on the outside. Right behind Patriot on the outside. Still a battle between these two Factory 1 competitors. On board Chicks Beach Offshore, we've got Gina Marone and Lou Dickey, driver and throttleman. Again, both of these boats are fountains and 29-footers and mercury powered. All right, there's Offshore Addiction, 28-foot Warlock Eric Treadwell. For Sports and Typhoon in third, Team BRE, your winner in Factory 1 class. In Outlaw A, Mountain Dew coming out on top, Grumpbill Men in second, Dan Carrera in third, Mountain Dew, the checkered flag in Outlaw A. And your winners in Performance 1 and 2. First off in Performance 1, Out for Justice in first place, followed by How Sweet It Is in second place. In Performance 2, your winner, Obsession. And in Performance 3, Dirty Cash, followed by Bring It On and Team TKO, Dirty Cash, the checkered flag in Performance 3. In Performance 4, the Bat Boat, followed by Cool Running and Miss Cigarette, the Bat Boat, getting the checkered flag in Performance 4. All right, after these two races in Cleveland, here are your national point standings as follows in the various classes. First off in Super V, Nick Carter Racing, Media Master, Phoenix Waste, and International Offshore. In Super V Light Single, Vortec Extreme, Fury, High Noon Racing, and Solarized. In Super V Light Twin, Pier 57, Stainless Marine, Hoods Quality Foods, Rodriguez Group, and Lucas Oil. In Factory 1, Typhoon, followed by Activator, Flashwave, H2O Motorsports, Chicks Beach Offshore, and High Energy Racing. Now, Typhoon had been in third place in Factory 1, moved all the way up to first place in the national point standings. In Factory 2, Team Donzi, followed by RNS Offshore Racing, Herbert Racing for a Cure, Harwich Concrete Block, Snap-on Talking Tools, and Total Marine. In that class, RNS Offshore Racing went from third, moving up to second. Herbert Racing now is in third place. And those are your national point standings in the respective classes after two races here in Cleveland. Great racing, but most of all, safe racing here at the Cleveland Offshore Grand Prix. Before we go, there are a few people that we would like to thank. First off, the entire staff of the APBA for orchestrating the fine event. Of course, Gary and Nancy Johnson for their fine camera work. Our helicopter pilot, Mr. Nick McMahon from McMahon Helicopter Services. This is Vince Lipari wishing you a fond farewell from Cleveland, Ohio. See you at the next APBA race in Corpus Christi, Texas. Bye. Patriot Offshore Racing, a 29-foot fountain. Curtis Watkins, the driver. John Thames is the throttleman. Curtis from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. John from Stowe, Vermont, long ways from Key West, Florida. Mercury powered, 500 horsepower. Mercury inboard. Viper Marine is the owner of Patriot Offshore Racing. F-177. Lots and lots of spectators here in Key West as we head into Mallory Square. There's Team Donzi on the outside, Team Donzi. Curtis Watkins at the wheel doing a nice job. John Thames, the throttle man. On board Patriot Racing with Curtis Watkins and John Thames. Beautiful day here in Key West. Race number 2 of this 7-race event here in these World Championships, APBA. Little jolt there on board Patriot Offshore Racing. Recovery, Curtis Watkins and John Thames. Back to a helicopter shot. All right, now let's go with Patriot, another Factory 1 boat. Patriot, 29-foot fountain. Curtis Watkins, the driver. John Thames, the throttle man. Mercury powered, 500 horsepower Mercury inboard. Took an 8th place on Wednesday. Factory 1, Patriot Offshore Racing. Viper Marine is the owner. Spectator boats there in the background lining the course. Herbert Racing with Eric Treadwell and Boomer Hikari on board Factory 2. Let's go on board Patriot Offshore Racing. Curtis Watkins and John Thames. Curtis from Fort Lauderdale, John from Stowe, Vermont. Long ways from Key West. Lots and lots of spectators having watched race number 6, and of course awaiting race 7, the Super Cat and Super Cat Light, which will take place in a few moments. All right, let's go with Factory 2 winners. Now we got Speedwear in first place, Total Marine at second, Snap-on Talking Tools in third, Speedwear getting the checkered flag. We saw that in Factory 2. And Speedwear will be your world champion in Factory 2. Here is a rundown on the points. Highest points for Speedwear, followed by RNS Offshore, Total Marine in third. Speedwear, your world champion in Factory 2 class. Speedwear was your world champion in 99, did not race in 2000, almost was your world champion in 2001, and here it is 2002, world champion in Factory 2 class here in Key West. Congratulations to Todd Welding and Lance Hendrickson, driver and throttleman on Speedwear, world champion 2002, Factory 2. All right, in Factory 1, Typhoon getting the checkered flag, followed by Radioactive, and Activator in third. Typhoon in first place in Factory 1 class here in race number 6. And Typhoon will be your world champion there with the most points. Typhoon, world champion at Factory 1, followed by Activator and Flashwave. Typhoon also was your world champion in 2000 in Factory 1. So a number of repeat performances by some of these competitors in the various classes. Typhoon, your world champion 2002, Factory 1 here in Key West. So that's it. Great racing for race number 6. Freeze Frame Video Production, certainly proud to be a part of it. A few mishaps, but no major problems. Everyone is safe. Now, before we go, there are a few people that we would like to thank. First off, our helicopter pilot, Mr. Russell Kilpatrick. Also, Gary and Nancy Johnson for their fine camera work. Special thanks to E for all of her help during the 2002 racing season. Mr. Jim Fisher for his help on the onboard cameras. And, of course, the entire staff of the APBA for orchestrating this fine event. So this is Vince Lipari on behalf of Jeff Girardi and the rest of the Freeze Frame Video Production crew, wishing everyone a fond farewell from Key West, Florida, hoping to see you at the 2003 APBA Racing Campaign. Bye, everyone.